welcome back to Laugh Tracks. I'm your host, Jeremy, and today's episode is going to be a little bit different. Corey's feeling a little bit under the weather, so I'm flying solo today. But don't worry, I've still got a great show lined up. We're going to dive into some personal stories, hear from some of you with your New Year's resolutions, reflect on 2024, and look ahead to what's next. It's been a wild ride in 2024, and I'm grateful for everything that's happened, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. I know we're all looking forward to a fresh start with 2025. And as we dive into today's episode, I want to take a moment to reflect on what we've learned and how far we've come. This podcast has been such a blast to put together, and I'm excited about where we're headed. Whether you've been with us since day one or you just tuning in now, I'm thankful for each and every single one of you. So grab your coffee, kick back, and let's dive in. It's going to be a fun one today, even though I'm flying solo for this episode. And don't worry, Corey will be back next time. All right. Now let's talk about New Year's resolutions. I don't know about you, but I've always find the idea of setting goals for the New Year's both exciting and a little daunting. We all start off with the best intentions, whether it's to get healthier, take on new projects, or just be a better version of ourselves. But we also know how easy it is to let those resolutions slide as the year goes on. So I want to hear from you guys. What are your New Year's resolutions for 2025? I asked you to send them in, and you did not disappoint. I've got a bunch of awesome submissions here, so let's dive in and see what's going on in everyone's mind for the new year. So first up, we've got Sarah from Raleigh. She shared that her resolution is to finally tackle that long overdue home renovation project. You know the projects you've always been putting off because it's just a little too overwhelming to start. Well, Sarah says that this is the year she's going to make it happen. She's going to organize, plan, and get it done. Sarah, I'm right there with you. Taking on those big projects can feel like a mountain. But once you start, it's so rewarding to see the finish line. Best of luck with the renovation. So next we've got a resolution from Tim in Asheville. Tim's goal is to get back into shape after a long stretch of working too many hours and neglecting his health. He's aiming to start a consistent workout routine and eat more balanced meals. And I love this. Tim, taking care of your body is so important. And the fact that you're prioritizing your health is already a huge win. Remember, it's not about perfection, it's about consistency. You've got this. So here's a fun one from Lucy, who lives in Silva. Lucy's resolution is to learn something new every month, whether it's a new skill, a new hobby, or just a random piece of trivia. And I love this. I think too often we get stuck in our routine and forget that learning can happen in so many different ways. So Lucy, you've got something, you're onto something good there. Whether it's learning how to bake a new dish or mastering a new language, it's all about expanding your horizons. All right, so then there's Mike from Greensboro, who shared that his resolution is to travel more this year, and not just the typical vacations, but to explore hidden gems and off the beaten path destinations. I think we can all get behind this one. Traveling broadens our perspective, and Mike's right. There are so many places out there that aren't on the typical tourist map. Mike, I hope you get to visit some amazing spots this year and make some memories that will last a lifetime. All right, and finally, we've got Emily from Winston-Salem, who is focusing on a resolution that is close to my heart. Emily's goal is to spend more quality time with her family and make sure they're all present and engaged. In today's world, it's so easy to get distracted by work, screens, and everything else. But the real moments are the ones we spend with the people we love. Emily, this is such a beautiful resolution, and I hope you're able to create more of these moments this year. All right, so I have to say, I'm really inspired by all these resolutions. Whether it's getting healthier, learning something new, focusing on relationships, you're all aiming for things that can make 2025 even better. And remember, it's not about achieving perfection, it's about making progress and sticking with your goals. Whether you hit them or not, the fact that you're setting them is a huge step in the right direction. And if you don't quite get there, that's okay too. What matters is that you're trying, and that's worth celebrating. All right, let's take a little break from the resolutions and dive into something fun. You know, I love a good random fact. So let's hit you with a few interesting tidbits that might just blow your mind. So, first up, did you know that honey never spoils? That's right, archaeologists have found pots of honey in ancient Egyptian tombs that are over 3,000 years old, and it's still perfectly edible. Honey's natural preservatives, like its low moisture content and acidity, keep bacteria and microbes away. So if you've got a jar of honey that's been hanging around your pantry for years, no worries, it's still good to go. Honestly, I can't think of anything else in your kitchen that could last that long. Here's another one. Did you know that dogs can actually sniff out diseases? Now, I'm sure we all know dogs have an amazing sense of smell, but some dogs are trained to detect certain medical conditions like cancer or diabetes just by sniffing a person's skin or his breath or her breath. It's incredible that a dog's nose can be so sensitive that it can even pick up on subtle chemical changes in the body. Talk about having a natural superpower. And speaking of powerful senses, did you know that octopuses have three hearts? Two of them pump blood to their gills, while the third pumps it to the rest of their body. But here's the kicker: where an octopus swims, the heart that pumps blood to the body actually stops beating. That's probably why they prefer crawling around on the ocean floor instead of swimming. If that doesn't make you appreciate octopuses a little more, I don't know what will. Okay, so the last one for today. Did you know that the Eiffel Tower can grow by up to 6 inches during the summer? The metal expands when it heats up, and it actually is a pretty fascinating fact about one of the world's most iconic landmarks. So, if you're ever in Paris during a hot summer, just know that the Eiffel Tower might be a little taller than usual. Now, I hope these fun facts give you something to think about today. And if you got any random facts of your own, send them. Who knows? They might make it to an episode on the next episode. All right, it's time for one of my favorite segments, Rapid Fire Q&A. This is where I get to answer some random fun questions that help you get to know me, and maybe Corey too, if she were here. Since today's episode is a solo run, you're stuck with me. So let's see if I can answer these questions, these quick fire questions, without overthinking them. All right, so the first question up here is, what's your guilty pleasure? Well, my guilty pleasure is definitely snacking late at night. I'm talking chips, cookies, whatever I can grab in the pantry. It's like the day winds down and my cravings kick in. Don't judge me too much, but I love it. All right, so next up is, what's something you can't live without? Well, for me, it's probably Mountain Dew. I don't think I could function in the morning without a can of Mountain Dew. It's my go to energy source, and I'd probably be a zombie without it. Okay, this one's a fun one. If you could visit any place in the world, where would you go? Now, I've always wanted to go to Japan, especially Tokyo. I've heard the culture, the food, and the sights are absolutely incredible. It's on the top of my travel bucket list, for sure. What's my biggest fear? I'd say my biggest fear is probably letting people down. I don't like feeling like I've failed someone, especially when it comes to my family or close friends. But hey, it's all about learning from those moments, am I right? Next, what's your go to comfort food? I'd say it's definitely pizza. I mean, who doesn't love pizza? There's something about that warm, cheesy goodness that just makes everything feel better. And last but not least, if you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be? I'd have to say Abraham Lincoln. He went through so much during a pivotal time in U.S. history, and I think it'd be fascinating to hear his thoughts on leadership and his perspective of the world today. All right, so that's going to wrap up our rapid Q&A. I hope you had as much fun as I did answering these. If you've got any wild questions for the next time, don't hesitate. Just send them in. Okay, now it's time to give some love back to you, our amazing listeners, with a segment that we're going to call Listener Shoutouts and Stories. This is where we take a moment to shout out some of our listeners who've sent in stories, feedback, or they just want to be a part of our journey. It's going to be one of our new favorite parts because without you, this podcast wouldn't be the same. So let's get into it. First up, we've got a story from Kevin in Boone. Kevin sent in this hilarious story about his recent camping trip. Apparently, he and his buddies thought they'd be clever and skip the whole setting up the tents thing and just sleep under the stars. Well, about halfway through the night, a huge rainstorm rolled in, and they ended up soaking wet and scrambling to find shelter. Kevin said it was one of those moments where they just had to laugh at themselves because they thought they were being so outdoor experts, only to realize they weren't. Kevin, I've got to say, that's a classic camping fail, but it's these kinds of stories that make the best memories. Am I right? All right, next we're going to give a shout out to Jessica from Durham. Jessica has been listening since episode 1 and reached out to us to tell us how much she loves the podcast. She says she appreciates how down to earth and real we keep it, especially when we talk about life's changes or life's challenges. Jessica, thank you so much for your kind words. It really means a lot to know we're making a connection with listeners like you. Okay, now we've got another story, this time from Chris in Greensboro. Chris sent in a story about how he met his wife at a coffee shop, and it's honestly one of the cutest things I've ever read. They were both reaching for the same coffee mug, and after a brief awkward moment, they ended up chatting about their favorite brews. Fast forward a few years, and they're married with 2 kids. Chris, that's one of these stories that gives you faith and love at first sight. Thank you for sharing. All right, last but not least, we've got a special shout out to Brian in Nashville. Brian reached out to say that he's been listening while working on his new hobby, woodworking. He said he loves having our podcast on in the background while he's working on his new projects, and it helps keep him motivated. Brian, we're honored to be a part of your creative process. Keep making those amazing pieces, and we'll keep providing the soundtracks. I just want to take a moment to thank everyone who's shared a story, a comment, or even just been there supporting the podcast. You guys have been the reason we keep doing this, and we couldn't do it without you. All right, let's take a look ahead to 2025. We made it through another year, and with each new year comes new fresh opportunities and the chance to set new goals. I want to share a few of our big goals for the podcast this year, and I'm really excited about what's ahead. So first and foremost, one of our biggest goals is to reach 1,000 listeners. Now, I know that might sound like a big milestone. When I look at how far we've already come, I feel like we're going to get closer every day. The support from all of you has been incredible, and I know we can reach even more people this year. So if you enjoyed the podcast, don't forget to share it with your friends, your family, co-workers, whoever might enjoy a good laugh and fun conversation. Every new listener helps us grow and keep us motivated to keep doing what we're doing. Another big goal for 2025 is to continue evolving the content we create. We're always brainstorming new ideas, fresh segments, and exciting themes that we think you'll love. But here's the thing. We want to hear from you. If there's something you want to hear more of or something you love us to dive into, let us know. Your feedback is a huge part of how we shape the podcast, and we want to make sure we're giving you what you're interested in. We're all about making this fun, interactive space where everyone feels involved. On a big scale, we're seriously considering starting a second podcast this year. It's still in the early brainstorming stages, but we've got some ideas we're really excited about. The goal would be to explore different topics we don't always have time for on laugh tracks. Something that complements this show while bringing in a fresh perspective and new content. And then lastly, personally, 2025 is about finding balance. I want to make sure I'm taking care of my family, keeping up with my passions, and still putting in the work on this podcast to make it the best it can be. Balancing all those things is important, and I'm determined to make it work this year. All right, folks, we've come to the end of today's episode. I've got to say, I've been really enjoying recording this solo episode, but I'm definitely looking forward to having Corey back next time. It's always more fun, and we're both here sharing stories and laughing with all of you. As we wrap up today's episode, I just want to take a moment to thank everyone who's been a part of this journey with us. Whether you've been listening from episode 1 or just recently discovered Laugh Track, your support means the world to us. Seriously, without you, we wouldn't be here. Your message, feedbacks, and stories are what keep us going, and we can't wait to continue building this community with you. If you haven't already, don't forget to follow us on social media, subscribe to the podcast, and share it with your friends. We've got so much in store for 2025, and we're excited to keep growing with all of you. And hey, if you're enjoying the podcast, leave us a review. Would really help spread the word. It's small, but goes a long way in getting Laugh Track into the ears of more listeners. As always, if you got a fun story, a random fact, or even just a question you want to ask, don't hesitate to send it our way. We love hearing from you and always trying to incorporate your thoughts, your ideas into the show. So here's to a brand new year full of laughter, growth, and exciting adventure. We've got big plans for 2025, and we're grateful you're here with us. Keep tuning in, and we'll catch you next time. Stay safe, stay awesome, and as always, keep laughing.